Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of this here podcast. Today we're going to talk about the full-scale TDS meltdown that the media has had over Trump's hilariously subversive decision to take a direct meet with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Now, I've waited a couple days to kind of see how this was going to shake out, and I've seen pretty much everything from, this isn't the best idea in the world, to, meh, to, yeah, take the meet. As far as I'm concerned, I'm team why the hell not. I mean, nothing else has worked at this point. Why not? Why not try? But the media has not felt the same way, obviously because they suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And nobody does Trump derangement syndrome the way CNN does Trump derangement syndrome. So I found this piece online from CNN that I wanted to go ahead and highlight today. Headline is, Trump isn't the first U.S. president to get a North Korean invite, but he's the first to accept. Okay, first of all, y'all had to get that dig in right off the rip, didn't you? Second of all, who edited this? You don't start a sentence with but. That's a horrible way to start a sentence. No. All right, get into this piece. No U.S. president has agreed to sit down with a North Korean leader until now. Just by showing up to see Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump would give his murderous dynasty what it's always craved, the prestige and propaganda coup of a meeting of equals with the President of the United States. Now, I don't know who in their right mind views the President of the United States and the leader of North Korea as equals. Nobody does, CNN. Except for maybe you, but the rest of us rational people, no, we know there's a distinct difference. Back to the piece. This is why the talks represent such a massive gamble for Trump and will subject him to intense pressure to deliver a significant breakthrough in return towards the U.S. goal of dismantling North Korea's nuclear arsenal. Again, I don't know of any rational person that's really expecting any kind of significant breakthrough. I think all of us would be happy with something, anything, maybe an actual peace treaty between North and South Korea. I mean, anything. Just take down the demilitarized zone. Nobody's expecting them to completely give up their nuclear arsenal on the first try. We'll get back into that a little later on. The difficulty of that assignment is why Trump's predecessors balked at a breakthrough encounter the president has now agreed to. Actually, I've got some thoughts on that we'll get into a little later on when we start talking about the failures of the previous administrations in dealing with North Korea. Because a meeting with the U.S. president is so valuable to North Koreans, it's always been the American position that it should be reserved for a moment a deal is on the table and deliver a significant return. See, this is the problem. How are you going to get to the point where you can make a deal with North Korea without actually having them meet with the President of the United States? It kind of sounds to me like that's a way to kind of push off meeting with North Korea because you just don't want to, you're afraid to, whatever. The White House is convinced that the pain inflicted by its maximum pressure sanctions campaign has so weakened North Korea that it's desperate to negotiate. I don't know if they're convinced of that or not. Actually, I don't know what Trump thinks. I don't think North Korea really cares as much about sanctions as everybody else does. I mean, this is a country that was happy to let 10% of their population starve to death and doesn't seem to have a problem with their population currently eating dirt. But Trump's inexperience and willingness to risk one of his best cards, the prestige of a presidential visit, is one reason some analysts caution him may be walking into a trap. Again, this is also Donald Trump we're talking about. I don't know how prestigious this presidential trip will be. And again, I still think that at this point, everything else has been tried. You have to at least try this. The stunning developments on North Korea underline one thing. Trump is not like any of his predecessors and cares little for foreign policy orthodoxy. Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't know of any other president that would have gotten an invitation from North Korea and just been like, yeah, fuck it, sure, why not? Let's set the meet when you want to do it. Now the article goes on to list previous administrations and what they did and did not do, and I'm not entirely sure where CNN was going with this because it's if you were trying to highlight where other administrations got it right, you failed. So we're going to start with Bill Clinton. Before Trump, the closest a sitting U.S. president got to meeting a North Korean leader was Bill Clinton, who was considering the possibility of traveling to Pyongyang to conclude a missile deal late in his presidency in 2000. The opening emerged after then Secretary of State Madeleine Albright visited North Korea and met their leader Kim Jong-il. But Clinton, unwilling, unlike Trump, to immediately accept before understanding more about what the meeting could achieve, sent Albright on a reconnaissance mission. President Clinton wisely said, "I am not going until this is prepared. I am sending the secretary." That didn't thrill them, Albright said in Brussels on Friday. So, okay, I understand the Secretary of State is not the same as the President of the United States. However, the Secretary of State is our top diplomat, and she went twice. So, I don't know how you really get to not legitimizing North Korea when you send your top diplomat twice. But let's move on. Ultimately, after Albright went to Pyongyang and as U.S. diplomats worked to set up the presidential visit, it became clear that North Korea and the U.S. were too far apart on the details of a missile pact to justify handing Kim the huge concession of a Clinton visit. Really, they were stuck on one issue. North Korea was willing to stop selling missiles, and North Korea was even willing to stop making missiles, but North Korea was not willing to give up the missiles it had, said Jeffrey Lewis, a nonproliferation expert at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. North Korea seemed to be holding back that last concession so that they could get their big visit, and the Clinton administration knew that the visit was the big deliverable, and they wanted to spend it very carefully, he said. Okay, so you're telling me there was a deal on the table for them to stop selling missiles and stop making missiles, and that maybe if the President of the United States visited them, they would stop actually developing a missile program, and you still decided not to take the meat. That's really, really fucking stupid. That is amazingly stupid. This could have all been put an end to in the Clinton administration, but because you wanted to hold out to get everything you wanted before you showed up, you blew a chance to at least get something. Makes no damn sense. Next up on the list is George W. Bush. The subsequent Bush administration, including hawks like Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and Vice President Dick Cheney, scotched efforts by Colin Powell's State Department to follow up on the Clinton diplomacy. Then the discovery of a North Korean highly enriched uranium program that flouted the spirit of an earlier Clinton administration deal to halt North Korea's plutonium program sent relations back into the deep freeze. Later on, when Bush did engage North Korea, it was in the framework of the six-party talks, including the two Koreas, Japan, the U.S., Russia, and China, that was designed specifically to ensure that Pyongyang could not use the provocations to secure their goals of direct talks with the U.S. So, yeah, six-way talks clearly did not get anything accomplished. Moving on to Barack Obama. The next president, Barack Obama, came to power vowing to talk directly to America's enemies. Eventually, he traveled to meet Cuba's President Raul Castro and spoke to Iranian President Hassan Rouhani by phone. What? I'm sorry, I thought we were not in the business of legitimizing murderous dictatorships. When did Cuba and Iran not fall into that category? Moving on. But he concluded it would be wrong to cave to North Korea's provocations. Why? You talked to Cuba, you talked to Iran, why couldn't you talk to North Korea? Again, makes no damn sense. This is the same kind of pattern that we saw his father engage in and his grandfather before that, said Obama in 2013. Since I came into office, the one thing I was clear about was, we're not going to reward this kind of provocative behavior. You don't get to bang your spoon on the table and somehow you get your way. Actually, that's how North Korea has been getting their way for decades. That's the whole crux of our relationship with North Korea. They bang their spoon on the table, we give them the attention they want. They fire off a missile, we give them attention. We ratchet up their sanctions, we lower their sanctions. Literally getting our attention and holding us hostage to make us do things that they want to do has been the whole MO of our relationship with North Korea. So, in that framework, what difference does it make if the president goes? You've already given them everything they want every time that they do a provocation. So what is the difference? During the Obama administration, however, there was a sign of just how keen the North Koreans still were to attract prominent U.S. visitors. This is where it gets good. In 2009, Clinton finally made it to North Korea for a visit on a mission to free 2 imprisoned U.S. journalists used by Pyongyang as leverage to lure a significant American to their country. Yeah, what was I just saying about them banging the spoon on the table to get our attention and we giving them what they want? Yeah, Exhibit A. Right here. His poker face in photos alongside Kim Jong-il was seen as a clear attempt to limit the propaganda value of his visit. But you still went. You still took the pictures. They still provoked you into going. That's my point. This is how North Korea operates. So calling them out on this, I mean, we've already given them everything they want. Like, what difference does this make? Another ex-president, Jimmy Carter, visited in 2010 and returned with another jailed American. And it worked again. They did the same damn thing twice and we fucking fell for it both times. Again, this is how North Korea operates. This pretending like we haven't already legitimized them is so fucking stupid. I don't even understand where anybody gets that idea. And now we come to Donald Trump. Not for the first time, Trump has decided to take exactly the opposite tack to Clinton and Obama. And by accepting the invitation, he will head onto treacherous diplomatic ground if the visit does not come off. The question before us now is, will Trump's boldness be rewarded? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. Only one way to find out. Or will he give away what is Washington's best bargaining chips and return home from his talks with Kim with something less significant than a North Korean undertaking to satisfy America's goal, the verbal dismantling of its nuclear weapons and intercontinental ballistic missiles program? Again, I don't think anybody is expecting that off the rip. I mean, right now, what we have from Korea is nothing. If we can get something, anything that gets that ball rolling, I'm okay with that. I've not heard anybody else say that they would not be okay with that. And again, in order to end a negotiation, you have to start it. And since you have to start somewhere, here's as good a place as any, and it's almost serendipitous that it's going to be Trump to do it. It's kind of hilarious when you think about the fact that it's going to be Trump and Kim Jong-un sitting down to talk. 2 of the most megalomaniacal, narcissistic men on the planet are going to try to sit down and hammer out a deal between the U.S. and North Korea. That's just, you can't make up that kind of agitprop. You can't script that. It's too brilliant. Who would have thought, honestly, who would have ever thought that it would come down to this? His shock move is consistent with his vow to be a disruptive global force, and he is showing characteristic bullish confidence that only he can unpick one of the world's most intractable conflicts. That's where Trump's coming from. He's not thinking about disarming them or dismantling their nuclear program. Again, it's agitprop. This is something he wants the photo op just as much as Kim Jong-un does. It's theater. It's just fucking theater for both of these dudes. And both of them are walking into this thinking that they're going to get over on the other. That's what this is. And that's why, to me, I get it. I get that this has very serious global ramifications. But on one level, it's just so fucking funny to me that this is what's going to go down. Like I said, like, you couldn't script this. Like, if you tried to make a movie, you wouldn't even be able to come up with this. They did try to make a movie about this. They did The Interview. And it came nothing close to what is actually, possibly, maybe going to happen. Finish up the piece here. An optimistic view would be that Trump's fresh thinking and willingness to give Pyongyang what it wants so quickly is exactly the kind of orthodox approach that can shake North Korea out of its long torpor. Actually, I agree with that, because from everything I've seen so far, it really seems like North Korea is kind of trying to roll this invite back. as of this recording, I haven't seen anybody set forth an actual concrete date and time for this to happen. The only thing I've seen is the end of May, which at this point it's the middle of March, so if you want this to be done by the end of May, you needed to start making plans like yesterday. And basically where North Korea's left it off is that, we'll get back to you on that. Honestly, I don't think they really expected Trump to do what he did, to just go out and just be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's do the meet, without actually consulting anybody or taking weeks to think about it. But I don't know why they wouldn't think that. I mean, obviously, if you follow his Twitter thread or you follow anything of what his presidency has been, which I'm sure they have, they should have seen that coming, but I don't think they did. And now it's kind of one of those things where it's like, shit, do we really want to do this meet or not? So this is going to be an interesting situation. I'm curious to see if this meeting actually goes down. I genuinely would like to see something come out of this. I mean, North Korea has just been such a bad situation for so long that I'll take anything that's going to be a positive step towards getting the people of North Korea on a better footing. So that's about it for that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening if you've listened this far. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. This should be on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. So thank you, take care, and until next time.